All right, so in this one, we are going to be updating our redirect page or the cur CB view to actually handle any given analytic view. So like we want to actually monitor what's going on with every URL. That is, we want to get the data when it's clicked. We want to actually update that. So to do this, I'm going to do a couple things here. And first of all, I'm going to, instead of calling this cur CB view, I'm going to call this URL redirect view. That's a more appropriate name for what we're doing here. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy that and bring that into our URLs as the import. And there we go. So that just changes it ever so slightly. Not a huge deal, but it's something that I definitely wanted to do. So now what we want to do is actually create something that is a new model here, and we're going to save item, right? We're going to save some analytic data about this particular item. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to go into my terminal and I'm going to python manage.py start app, and we're going to call it analytics. So the app is now called analytics. We're going to add in a new model here. I'm going to first of all import the shortener model itself, or that actual object. So shortener.models import the cur URL. I'll explain why we're doing that in a second. And then we'll just do class analytic, or actually class click data, or just click event, and it's models.model. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to associate this to my actual URL. So I'll just say URL, or more specifically, it's the cur URL. So I'll say cur, well, let's leave it as cur URL equals to models.foreign key. And it's going to be the cur URL. And then we'll do count equals to models.integer field default equals to 0. And that's it. I could actually add in those timestamps. So if I open up my other models, I'm going to go ahead and add in the timestamp updated and original first click. I'll go ahead and remove this stuff. We don't need those notes anymore. And then I'm just going to define the string data, and it's going to take in self, and we're going to return just the integer. So I'll just put I in here and do dot format I equals to self.count. Okay, so this is now our model. But I want to think about something here. I did foreign key. What this does is associate the two models. Okay, but I'm not really worried about that association. Like, if you want to know more about how foreign keys work, definitely check out Try Django 1.9 and 1.8, or pretty much any other full project on joincfe.com. So instead, what I want to do is a click event. I want to have a one-to-one relationship. That is, I want the object, the cur URL object, to only have one sort of click event or events, and I only want the click events to have one sort of foreign key or one actual cur URL. So let's do a one-to-one field here. We're going to leave that as that, and we'll see what this does in just a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I want to create a model manager here because we've already learned about this. So we'll do click event manager, and it's going to be models.manager, and we're going to do define create event, or really just click, but we'll call it create event, and it's going to take in self and an instance. So the instance, we want to check if instant or is instance, not just instance, but is instance of the click event class. Then we will actually go ahead and do this. Or excuse me, not the click event class, but the cur URL class, because we're passing in the cur here. So we'll just say object equals to self.model and cur URL equals to instance. But we don't necessarily need to do self.model. Instead, we can do self.objects.get or create cur URL, right? So it's actually going to create it or get it. And in here, we can just say created. And we'll do object.count plus equals to 1, and then object.save. And we'll return the object. And otherwise, we'll return none. Actually, let's just return the object.count. So we're creating the event, and we're going to return the count. So down here, we're going to come in and say objects equals to click event manager. Cool. nothing should be new here. This should all be fairly intuitive as to what's going on. And the objects here, this part actually might be an error, which we'll find out, but that should be what it is. So now, and actually not self.objects, but self.get or create, because it is the objects. Okay, so we'll try this now, and we're going to first of all have to add, since we created this new app, we're going to have to add it into our analytics or our installed apps here. And since we did that and we made some models, we have to do python manage.py, make migrations, and cannot import name cur URL. So the URL, there's why, because I spelled it incorrectly, or at least had the capitalization incorrectly. So let's update all those, and we'll make those migrations, and I'll do python manage.py, migrate, and there we go. I'm also going to add this into the admin. So from .models, import click event, and then admin.site.register click event, and that should be lowercase to register. So we save that. And now in our view, this is where it actually should work. This time we're going to import the model from analytics. So from analytics.models, import click event. Okay, copy that, bring it down here. And now we do click event.objects.create event. And all we do is pass in the object or the actual instance. And again, if there's no object, it will render it out there. And then here, I'll just go ahead and print out that whole thing because it should either return none or the number of times it was clicked. So we're going to go ahead and save that. I think everything should work just fine. I'm going to go to some URL. I'll submit it in. Let's actually turn that link into its own link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And we'll jump into our template for it. And let's turn this into a link. So we'll do ahref equals to the actual short URL, not the other link. So let's go ahead and copy this, paste that there, close that out, and we're going to put this also on exists. There we go. So we save that. Let's try it again, refresh, and there we go. I click on it. I get a page not found. All right, so no cur URL matches giving query. So we have some problems with our short code, it looks like. So let's get rid of that trailing slash there, and we'll try that again. And it's still saying that it's not matching anything. Let's bring that trailing slash back and refresh, and it says no given query. So let's look at the URLs that we have. CFE blog is the one that we're looking at. Here's the short code. I paste it in. It's not coming through correctly, or at least it's not finding the object correctly. So let's go ahead and print out the short code, and let's see why. So we come in here, we'll refresh, and we've got the shortcode there. Cur URL should be getting this shortcode. So let's try and do a query set instead. So we'll do QS equals to cur URL.objects.filter shortcode equals to shortcode. And then we'll print out that query set now instead of the shortcode. And I'm actually going to add in iExact for that. And I'll explain that in a second too. We'll refresh in here. And we see that there is actually an object. So it looks like this get object or 404 is failing us, or at least it might be failing us because of this iExact stuff. So let's bring that in, save that, and refresh in here. Nope, still failing. Not exactly sure why, so I'm going to go ahead and comment it out. There's a very good chance that that is because of Django hosts or just something else that may be causing an error with this get object or 404. So now instead, I'm going to use the query set, and I'll say if qs.count is equal to 1 and qs.exists, then I will actually do all of this stuff, but I'll just say object equals to qs.first. It's just another way to get that query set. And then otherwise, we'll just raise an HTTP 404. And we have to import that 404 call on HTTP right there, just like that. In fact, I'm going to reverse these a little bit, and I'll say if count is not equal to 1 and not exist, then I will raise that 404 error. Otherwise, we'll just go with everything else. And it should print out the click events. Now let's try it again. I'll refresh, and we've got is instance. This might be the reason that the error happens. So it takes in two types, must be a type or a tuple of types. So let's look back at our analytic model, and it's taking in the instance, but let's just call this, we'll call this cur instance, and leave that in there. So cur URL and cur instance, and then use that as cur instance as well. Refresh, and it's still giving us a problem on line 9 as far as is instance is concerned. So the very obvious solution was I had these backwards. The instance should be first and the class should be second. Hopefully you guys caught that. If you didn't, we caught it. Okay, so let's go back and refresh. And now it looks like it's doing something. Hopefully it is. We might see an error. Didn't see an error. It actually brought us to somewhere else. This is definitely not us, so oops. But we have our site is now working as far as things are concerned. No, it did do two different redirects, but let's try it one more time, and I'll do join CFE. I'll hit shorten. It does shorten it, or at least in this time it did shorten it. So if I click on this one, this should actually redirect to join CFE, which then redirects to codingforentrepreneurs.com. So it's a redirect within a redirect. But if we go back to our URL, we see now that all of this stuff is really, really starting to shape up. But we also want to look in the admin. We want to see those click events. And I see that I have some click events in here. So join CFE has one. So let's try that again. And I'll hit shorten, click on that. And again, we clicked on it and notice the count goes up. Really nice. So I can also put the count in here by using that relationship. So it's a reverse relationship. This is how foreign keys work. I can just jump in here, and inside of exists, this is where I'll put it. And I'll just say count is equal to object dot click event dot count. This is because of that one-to-one relationship. If it was a foreign key, we'd have to do .all .first or something like that. But in this case, we're doing this right here. We refresh inside of exists, and we see our count is 2. And if I click on it again, I'll just open it in a new tab. It does that redirect pretty quickly. And I can refresh in here, and I see what my count is now. So this is now shortened URLs. Let's actually use a real URL that you would probably shorten, and that is like, let's go to our YouTube channel here, and we're going to actually get one of the URLs that's kind of long. So let's go in and grab the triangular.js URL. This one is definitely a little bit longer, so I'll go ahead and copy that. Go back to the home page, paste in, hit shorten. There is our now shortened URL. This is where it's going to be a little bit more valuable to us. And now that we have the shortened URL, I can also go back to that URL in particular, and I can change it to Angular or something, some sort of channel that I want to call it, and hit save and continue, or I call this project triangular.js, and I can save it as that short URL. So now if I refresh in here, it now is saying Angular.js, right? The count is non-existent because we didn't actually create it. But if I click on this, it actually creates it, brings us to that URL. And now if I refresh in here, I should see that count come through. Of course, we could use some template tag stuff like if object.click event. Then we would show that actual click event and then end if. Save that, refresh it here again. Of course, this time it does show it. If I change it to something else, like let's say YouTube, hit enter, the click event's not showing up. If I refresh, it's still not showing up. Okay, cool. So that is handling our analytics stuff. If you have any questions on what we did here, let us know. Hopefully none of this was like crazy difficult. Hopefully it all kind of flowed very nicely for us. And I want you to think about why I could use self.get or create, because what self.get or create is really replacing, or self in general, is click event.objects. That is because the objects is calling that manager. So this could just be self, right? That's how we can actually do it right in there. And then it creates our instance and it does everything that we need it to do. Cool. So again, if you have any questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.